welcome to RealClearFetish Talks RealClearPlay. This is season 2, and as you can see, the format is slightly different this year. Instead of a live stream, I've moved to YouTube, but it's all gonna be on Instagram as well, and on the RealClearFetish group as well. So everything is pre-recorded, everything is socially distanced, hand sanitized, and it's all safe. But also my guest is in a different part of the world. So today I've brought in one of my friends from the States. I've known him for 12 years. I did the calculation today. I was very upset. And let's meet him. Hi, Robert.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Well, the world as it is. Should we just run through the questions and then we can just see where we go from there?
Sounds good.
So, my first question is, what do you prefer I call you, name, pronouns, and title?
Well, I'm Robert. I'm a no pretense sort of sir, but my name is Robert. My pronouns are he and him.
Fantastic, fantastic. And could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Pretty active kinkster. Been in the, guess I've been in the fetish scene about 20 plus years. When I'm not doing really bad things to really bad boys, I am a business owner. I'm a chocolatier, so I actually do that for a living.
That sounds delicious.
I try.
Third question, completely sober, clear-headed, or social drinker?
I'm a social drinker.
Social drinker. Okay. So, and the last question, what is clear play to you and why is it important?
Clear play to me, first of all, is being in control of your faculties. As a dom and sir, I'm responsible for everything that's happening in the scene. And so with a lot of the edge play that I get into, it is paramount that I'm at least beyond functional. I need to be aware both of what's happening with my own body, what's happening with the sub or subs in the scene. So I can't afford, plural, I can't afford to be out of it in any fashion. I can't afford to be out of it, both from a safety perspective, but also an enjoyment. I like what I do. And I want to remember it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling of like, it's like if I had a lineup of 10 men, I wouldn't have an idea of who I'd been with when I was still using. So that I definitely recognize that. Yeah. You kind of need to be, well, you need to be present. And one thing, at least alcohol and drugs do, is you're not present, and it's all very surface level, and it's not very connected. Yeah. So you've been on the kink scene for a while. We can touch on, how did we meet, Robert? Should we touch on that a little bit?
We can touch on that. We met getting ready to compete for IML 31. I met this really, really pretty European title holder. And pretty much I felt like two things. Yeah, he was cute. But B, we clicked because we're about the same age range, because everyone else was significantly older than us.
Or really, really young.
Yeah, it was like there was nothing in the middle. There was like maybe 3 or 4 of us that were around the same age, and everybody else was on either end of the spectrum. So it became really an interesting thing to go, oh, well, this is some guy that I actually can kind of relate to. So that was that. It was a fun experience. That was 12 years ago.
Oh yeah, I mentioned that. It's like I realized how long it was ago. It's very long ago now. So as a dom, and I know you have a partner, Ben. Mm-hmm. Lovely Ben.
I have 2 boys.
You have 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I have a partner of 10 plus years, and who's also very kinky. And we have 2 boys. I have one that's been with me 5 years, has lived with me 5 years, and one that recently moved in as of this summer. But we have a fairly, I don't know, a fairly interesting dynamic. It's our household. There's 4 of us here. Navigating the pandemic in a household, in a kinky household, it's kind of fun, but I don't, they're my boys. So my partner is also a dominant, or at least to others. He's my sub. And then,
not to you.
Exactly. But yeah, so we have a pretty fun, we're an easygoing house. Like, I'm not a high protocol kind of guy. I do have structure there. Everybody has their things they have to do, but our household dynamic is pretty, I'd like to say easy, until it shouldn't be easy. But yeah, it's a good crew. I like my guys.
Oh, that sounds lovely. It is like I'm sitting here in my flat by myself. London is in full lockdown. We've literally just been announced major incident because of the bitch Rona. So it's an interesting time, especially being single and being stuck at home. It definitely, when it comes to fetish play, it's not a lot going on at the moment. I've been lucky enough to have a bubble sub in lockdown, but because of the full lockdown, I've kind of gone, no, we'll stick to the rules for now until it is allowed to kind of travel, because he lives a little bit outside London.
Oh, okay.
So it's we are keeping to those rules,
and I think that's wise. I think I realize how I'm fortunate that I do have my primary partners here in the house with me, but with these subs that I have history with that are outside, going back to being sober, I have to be the responsible one and say, no, this is not safe for us to play. Yes, I'm familiar with you. Yes, I understand. But you literally live somewhere else. And I'm responsible to the people, both my own health, but the people that live with me. So that, no, I can't just have random coming in and out and, oh, who's the new ass there? I don't know. That's...
But it's pretty.
It's very pretty, but that's the thing. I can't... And even with my subs, yeah.
Well, I what was it? Not more than like a day ago, I had someone contact me on an app that shall not be named, and kind of was like, "What you looking for?" I was like, "Well, not a lot. I'm working, but..." And he was like, "Oh, I'm looking." It's like, "Are you not looking?" And I was like, "Well, I have 2 words for you: lockdown, COVID-19." And he just went, "Oh, okay," and then he stopped replying, which is. Do you know what? I'm not out to kink shame or sex shame anyone and so on, and people have to do what they need to do. But the situation is we are in a pandemic, and I've definitely seen, I think especially if you are someone who does chemsex and so on, lockdown has been hard because all of a sudden you have all this time sitting by yourself at home, and what do you do with that time?
Yeah.
Especially if you have an addiction of some sort.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been like a steep increase when it comes to stuff like that. And
I've seen a lot of people ask me that. I've had just I guess maybe a weekend ago, a gentleman was, "Oh, I have a hotel room in town," and I'm thinking, I have questions. So you're in a hotel. So are you from here? Where are you from? And while I think I'm special, I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person you've messaged to come over to your hotel. So who's been there? 3, what exactly is your plan? I'm like, if this is a pandemic and we're adults first, we're kinksters, that's who we are, but you have to be an adult. You have to be responsible, and that reflects itself, whether it's in your decision to play clear or to not go meet someone when it's just not, I tell people all the time, I said, the virus doesn't have legs. We give it legs. It can't go anywhere that we don't go. So, and it's as simple as that. And I think when you are, again, for someone working through an addiction or process living with, then the time on your hands and the alone time in general, but the time on your hands and whether you have access to your substance or not creates a lot of turmoil that could lead to questionable decisions. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely seen where what was it? I've a friend of mine who's an ambulance driver here in London. Bless him for the work he does at the moment. It's 12-hour shifts. It's people not adhering to the rules and so on. And one of the examples he came with today, because he's just tired of people not following the rules, was being called out to 2 gay guys at a flat who had a panic attack because they had a third person over that now has told them that he has COVID-19 and they wanted a check over. And I can see why he's frustrated, but I'm also like, you won't do that unless your sense of safeguarding yourself is compromised.
Yeah.
I won't try to put myself in their headspace and what they're thinking, but I could imagine what I would have been thinking if I was using or if I was drinking, and my flight or fight mode was disabled, if you could say, or activated for that matter as well. So it's interesting to see, and also I think we gotten to a point now. We are a year in since we heard about this mysterious illness, and we're still here, and it's worse than ever.
And I think that's because we have lockdowns, but just because we have lockdowns does not mean that people are locking down. And I think, we complain about the inconvenience on one hand, but if we actually adhered to the inconvenience when we needed to, we wouldn't be here a year later. That's just what it is. Whether you believe in masks or not, social distancing or not, if you're at home, if it is not in your 4 walls, it can't get in your 4 walls. Everything has a lifespan, and it will eventually die off if it has no new host. And that's just the scientific side. It is easy to ask someone or, to rationalize, I'm just going to go over to this guy's house. I'm just going to stop. It was only a minute. I literally had some guy say, well, you can keep your mask on and just fuck me from behind. And I'm thinking, let's think about that. There's a lot of heavy breathing, hopefully, sweating and some other things going on. And
just lying there like a dead fish. Yay.
Exactly. So, that was exciting. It's like, so I risked my life and you laid there like a dead fish. But no, I think it's very easy to, when you're horny and if your judgment is compromised, to rationalize a choice that you'll probably later look back on. I won't say regret, maybe, but at least question. So yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. With the numbers being as they are now, I would not take any risks. I think maybe midsummer, late summer last year, it was been more calculated risk if I did meet anyone. I think when it comes to, especially with people living on their own, it's just like, well, you get to a point now where you kind of have to think about the physical health, but you also have to think about your mental health. And sex comes under that as well. So for me, I'm okay to go without. It's not a problem. I'll just watch a bit of more porn. That's fine.
Hello, Ham.
It's so hairy at this point.
Exactly.
But it's interesting to see when you have all this screaming at you, going danger, 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 but people are still doing it. But you also kind of have to go, I can't judge this person. It's a sexual drive. It's sometimes that just your brain goes out of your head.
I don't mind the not judging. I will reserve my thoughts because not that I judge, but I will say this: evolution filters out things, and there isn't a parent. I think right now, especially with that, we treat our government as our parent, and we're wanting someone to fix it and someone to blame. And if we can always find someone else to go, well, if they had done this, if then I wouldn't have to be responsible, because we're abdicating responsibility, which goes along with what we're discussing and being clear when you play. It is easy to pass that off or want to put that on someone else, but at the end of the day, the pandemic or the virus itself does not care for your reasons. It's not concerned about your mental health. It will affect you or it won't in the ways that you don't get to determine. I am having had COVID this year or last year. I can tell you that's the scariest thing I've ever experienced, and I've never thought I was going to die before until that moment. And having lost someone close to me with COVID, I can tell you that no, there is no amount of ejaculation that can make me risk compromising my life. I like sex. I like kink. And I want to do a lot more of it. And if that means I can't do any right now, so be it. But I really wish people would take it upon themselves to go, you're your own parent. There is no one else to point a finger at or rationalize or argue with. And if you're more concerned about being shamed for your choices than the consequences of those choices, we need some other priority reevaluation. So, I mean, that's just it. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I don't make a practice of going out and having opinions on other people's lives, but I will say that nature will thin the herd, and that's a very harsh thing to say, but that's what's happening. We're, in this country alone, we're, 350, almost 370,000 people less than we were a year ago.
Yeah, we're about to hit 80,000 here, so it's quite something, and it's hard, it's difficult, but I think it's also coming into the new year. I think when we can kind of grasp the end of it now, because there's now 3 vaccines available, which has been authorized here in the UK, and a third one is coming from the States, which we've now ordered, I think, like 3 million doses of, but that won't arrive before spring. But all of a sudden, it's a little bit like when you get into your house and you have to pee. The closer you get, the more you have to pee.
Run! Exactly.
So I must admit, I knew when the Prime Minister went on TV this week and told us, well, we are now in full lockdown. This is what's happening. These are the figures. I had a bit of a cry. I was really upset. Yeah. I knew it was coming. I already knew. It was nothing new what he said. I think it was more the sensation of we're so close, but so far. And especially because I haven't left the UK besides my little holiday in October last year. I haven't been home to Denmark to see my family at all. That's been a no-go because my mom has health conditions and I just can't risk that. So it's difficult, it's hard. And I think especially now it's so important. I see so many beautiful things coming on, like online with like our Level Social here in London is online. It does its Zoom meetings. I know IML Recovery does its own Zoom meetings. Gear 365 does its own online stuff as well. So there's loads of gear stuff you can do. Of course, it's not the same. It's still through a screen.
But it's an option.
It's an option. And if it's really is difficult, there is so many things you can reach out to and talk to and alleviate some of that stress. But yeah, well, as you can imagine, we over here in the UK are looking over to America at the moment, thinking, well, what is that dumpster fire?
Fantastic time of the year.
Well, I couldn't possibly comment, but what is going on over there?
We have a lot of, we have a faction of people who, much like the conversation we just had, not dealing well with the reality of the situation. That's a very easy way to put that. And in some I'm sure being isolated played into it. I'm sure it did. But we have a group of people that think, you know, COVID be damned, rationale be damned, legality be damned. We're going to go do something because we're upset. And really, I mean, like, they're just upset. Let me tell you, I've been upset plenty of times. Last year was not a good year for me either. However, the thought that because I'm upset, we're going to go overtake and overthrow. Like I always ask myself, what did they think was going to happen?
I'm questioning that as well. I think we are all kind of getting to grips with it. It's like, what were they expecting that would happen?
Yeah, like what and if if they thought it was going to go further how? Were you literally going to harm our leaders? Was that the plan? Are we going to intimidate how? They have a job to do. So I question the decision. I think it's kind of like poking a bear. The bear is laying there. You poke it. You don't get to determine what happens when he wakes up. And I think that's what, they were, a entity that had been riled, had been goaded along to do something, something. And I think it was very apparent even from some of the footage that a lot of people got midstream and realized, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm angry and I'm mad and I'm going to yell at people, and some people lost their lives because of it. Actually, I think a lot more people are going to lose their lives because there were a mask in sight and there clearly wasn't social distancing if people are getting trampled and breaking through barricades. So I think we saw an unfortunate demise of 5 people instantly. I think what's going to happen, those people that got on a plane and came there, they got on a plane and left. So you have amongst themselves, you also have the flight crew, you also have the other passengers, you also have the people they went home to. So in the last 36 hours, 72 hours, you've taken roughly, 3,000 or 4,000 people? I guess that's how many were there, I have no idea, that were there, that became a super spreader event in not just one place, but across this nation. And that scares me more than anything, because I do know people that went, which I can't say they're friends. I know people that went.
You know of people that went, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know them directly. And this guy was like, yeah, I got to go and do this. And I'm thinking, do you really? Okay. So that person is going back to his home state and taking whatever he picked up along the way. And so that's what scares me, in addition to the legal implications and what that meant. We just had people storm our Capitol in the middle of session to intimidate our congressmen and senators and really? And so, yeah, it's just, I'm not in shock. I'm just in awe going, wow, that happened.
Yeah,
I lived through that.
I think especially here in the UK and especially amongst my friends, what we are the most shocked about is the lack of action towards it. It just felt like they walked in through the front doors. And we saw what happened when the Black Lives Matter protest happened last year. There was no way they got near that building. And the difference, it's mind-blowing.
They let them in.
We've seen that video where they literally opened the gate and they kind of like, well, you can't come in, but we're going to let you anyway.
Let you come in. Exactly.
It's like, don't, please.
But here's how you get in.
It's like, here's the key.
Yeah. And you can't deny that. I think that's the one good thing to come out of that nonsense was, prior to that point, there's always been an argument that there wasn't 2 Americas. There's always been an argument that it isn't how we say it is, or there isn't a discrepancy. You can't tell me what I didn't just see. And as it happened live in some instances, you can't make me unsee that. You can't make the billions of people that saw that, because I'm sure billions saw that, you can't lie your way out of that when you can't explain your way out of that. Don't give me your perspective because I know what I saw. And that is what I think is going to be a tipping point for our country. Don't know in a good direction or bad direction, but we can no longer have arguments around denying. Because that's, I think, we've been stuck, whether we acknowledge there's a problem or not. And I think, so hopefully, the conversation moves past that. The conversation moves from, is there a difference, to why is there a difference? What are we going to do about the difference that was just put on display?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's some of the arguments I'm getting over here is just mind-blowing. And of course and I'm sorry to say it, it's white people coming with the arguments. And it was just like, why are you trying to dismiss this? It's so clear what's happened. We've seen the pictures from Black Lives Matter. We've seen what the armed guard looked like. And here, there was nothing at all.
Well, just 4 or 5 years ago, they shot a woman to death for making a U-turn on the lawn, or at the end of the ground. She wasn't even on the lawn. She didn't get that far. She was driving, made a U-turn, and they shot her car 26 times.
Jesus.
Shot her car. She didn't get out. Her baby's in the car. Killed her. Just like that. And there was not even, she never exited her vehicle. So the excuse was that she was using her vehicle as a weapon. So along with that, and also the number of both police, military, and also elected officials that were in that crowd, that's going to be something to be dealt with for years to come.
See, my biggest worry with this whole debacle, if you can call it that, as might be too hot mess. Hot mess.
The whole hot
mess. Yeah. This is after a 4-day bender. That's kind of how it feels like. It's. I'm just scared that all these people are just gonna go home and nothing's gonna happen. I know a couple of
they've already gone home.
They've already gone home. I know some of them were like, if they were identified, they were put on a no-fly list. That's kind of what we've heard over here. But that's not necessarily prosecuting. We're literally talking about something it's insurrection, it's treason, it was a coup, a very bad organized one, but a coup nonetheless.
One of my friends, I love the meme. Yeah,
last time that kind of happened here, which is hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they caught the guy, strung him up, and dragged him through the streets with his bowels out. And they still celebrate it every year. It's called Guy Fawkes Night, and that's where they do the fireworks.
Make notes. Tie up, drag through.
Yes.
Well, I think what's going on is the reason you saw nothing happening there is so now we can say, well, we weren't able to catch them all. They went home, 4,000 people. So if 4,000 people were not arrested, and trust me, you can gang arrest a whole bunch of people. You can round them up and herd them like cattle and let one way in, one way out. You've got tanks, anchor them in, and do nothing but haul them off, all of them off. Okay, they chose to not do anything confrontationally. They were allowed to leave. They were literally allowed and told to go home, go away, go over there. Okay. And then we put up a notice saying, if you can help us identify these people, we're trying. No, you're not. You let them go and you put it on the burden of the citizens who weren't there. Because none of us were sitting there, taking notes. Oh, Jim went to the insurrection today. You're hoping through some blurred video that we're going to be responsible for doing your job for you. And then if it doesn't happen, it was 4,000 people. We couldn't do anything. And that's going to happen to some degree because they've only arrested, I think, 13 people?
Yeah.
Out of 4,000? Yeah. 13 people.
So at least one thing that's coming out of this is, of course, as you say, it's all of a sudden left to the public to identify these people, but people have also been on it. They are naming and shaming, and because video are not blurry anymore, it's all in fucking HD. So we have the lady that's like, oh, I was maced with an onion in her fucking hand, which is just
Yes.
There's one woman, it's like she could be like someone's grandmother, just kind of just blatantly going, oh, I went in and trashed the place. And then of course there's the guy with the horns, which all the gays are really upset by. It's like that was that Village People person they didn't have in the band. So it's
what's funny about him is that he's a QAnon, he's a adamant pro-Trump, whatever. And what's funny is because the armchair extremists are stuck between, so that happened. We can't deny it happened. No one's believing us that it didn't happen. So now we're going to say they're not actual Trump supporters. Now we're going to say they're not in our party. And they're turning on their very people who had the gall, I can't even say balls, the gall to go and do such a thing. They're turning on them because you have one group saying, oh, those are not our group. And other people like, of course I am. And I'm a patriot. I'm going to do these things. And it's funny watching this group implode on itself because there isn't a consensus of how to tell the lie. And that's what's happening, is that everyone's looking at, well, what lie do we tell? And we don't have access to our fearless leader who was feeding us rhetoric. And that, I think, is fascinating to watch how it splinters. So yeah, I agree. It's very, tying that back into kind of the subject of why we're talking, I think it's proof positive of what happens when you drink the Kool-Aid, literally or proverbially, that at some point, my mom always had this phrase, Robert, there's a split second for you to make the right or wrong decision. There's always a split second, no matter what you're doing, no matter heat of the moment, there's a second. And she said, how your life goes is based on that second, not all the things that led up to it, not all the things that came after, but how your life goes is based on what you do with that second. And I think about that. I use that. One of my longtime subs was calling me yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, I really wish I could come see you. I really, really want to come see you. We moved in the middle of a pandemic because that's
what you do.
But I'm closer. This is what you do. Well, I mean, to tie that back in, my mom passed in our home from COVID. And the mental strain, but the mental strain on getting up every morning and going, my mom died in my kitchen right there, was not, in addition to being quarantined at home, was not something that I could do in the midst of getting over COVID myself. So, my fuse for people doing stupid things in COVID is real short. But
understandable.
We moved. So we moved. And moving, I'm closer to a handful of my regular subs. And so it's been this, oh, you're closer. Oh, we can do this more often. Oh, I'm like, we're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic.
It kind of comes back to the whole we've seen in Mexico and Rio de Janeiro. And I'm just like, and they get so defensive when you call them out. I'm not saying, as I mentioned earlier, I went on holiday in October last year. This was in Spain. Yeah. It was all with face masks. There was no parties. It was hand sanitizer everywhere. We kept to our social bubble. So it's a very different kind of holiday. This is blatantly big circuit parties, no masks. I've seen several celebrities pop up, mainly from Drag Race, which is upsetting in itself because they should know better.
They do know better.
Yeah, they do know better. But that's I call someone out, as you should. I call someone out on Twitter because that's where the grounded conversations are. Sarcasm.
What does that say about the world?
And the only response I had, most of them were with me, and comment the same thing. But there was a couple who was like, "Mind your business." And I was like, well, no,
You're a plague rat. Let's be real. You're a plague rat traveling around town with this. Really? I should mind my own business? We're in lockdown. We are in lockdown because of people continuing to not be.
Well, there's this lovely video of Silky Ganache in Mexico. I think it was Mexico she was in. And she notices the camera, and she's literally hiding behind Vanjie. It's like, oh shit, there's a camera. And I'm just like, yeah, you know it's wrong. You know you've done something. You fucked up.
You know, if you want to be defensive.
Well, I think they went silent on their social medias afterwards. And I don't necessarily mean to name and shame, but it is the fact that the person was aware of the cameras.
You can't be shamed. This is my deal with people feeling bad about quote unquote shaming. You can't be shamed unless you are ashamed. I am I'm an open kinkster. I've been an open kinkster most of my life. You can't hold that over my head. Robert, we saw you doing this at this place. I was. I do it well. Because I own who I am. I own what I do. If you have an issue with it, that's fine. But if at any point you're doing something that you're afraid that someone's going to find out about it, or you immediately know you have erred and you're hoping someone else doesn't notice, you have done something shameful. Not the person that's calling you out, you. So I can't shame you for things that you are not, that you are proud of. I can only shame you for things you're ashamed of. And the question then should be, why are you ashamed? What's going on internally that makes you go, I don't want people to know that I made this decision. I'm not going to call it a poor decision. I'm going to call it a decision. You made it. You went. A friend of mine came in who lives in San Diego, who also went to Puerto Vallarta, I guess, last summer, but we came home for the holidays. And I was like, you're in Jersey, but you live in San Diego. You flew to New Jersey to be at the holidays with your family. And I thought, well, maybe he's going to, since he's working from home, maybe this is about to be his new bubble and he's staying. No, you were just here for 2 weeks and you flew back to San Diego. And then he called me New Year's Eve. I tested positive for COVID. I don't want to say I don't feel sorry for you, but I don't. You were not concerned with testing positive for COVID when I said don't come. You were not concerned with testing positive for COVID when you got on the plane twice, when you had, dinner with your family. So either someone there had it, either you caught it on the plane over, you caught it here, or you caught it on the plane going home. But whatever the case, you exposed people in one of those 3 places before you found out you were positive. That is shameful. And I don't care if someone says you shouldn't point. That is a fact. This is a cause effect. This is action consequence. And being more concerned about getting called out is the least of our troubles. That is the least of our trouble. Because there's no different from the people being identified on the steps of the Capitol doing stupid shit than the people being in Puerto Vallarta and Rio doing stupid shit. Same thing. You can't say that, oh, well, this is me. I needed my mental health. You will die. Please tell me this, knowing the death rate of COVID and that we don't have a widely available vaccine yet. So you are a sane corpse. Is that what I'm getting? You were, I sated my need for human contact and I died. That's literally what you're telling me when your psychological need supersedes your need to live. Because we are talking life and death. It's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. It's literally, and not only for you, the difference here is that you're killing other people. You are literally killing other people who you probably will never meet or never know that you encountered.
Yeah. It's very sobering talk, this, isn't it?
Well,
but it's do you know what?
Fine.
Do you know what? It's a necessary talk, and I'm so happy to have your points of views, both on the insurrection and COVID and so on, because I know over the 12 years I've known you, and I'm very open about this. Sometimes I'm very naive because I am white, so I don't notice these things. I think a clear example where it was a learning curve for me was you mentioned once you'd been arrested because you got profiled, and I was just like, why would they arrest Robert? Robert is a flamboyant gay man. He wouldn't hurt a fly unless he had a crop in his hand. But it's
finding crops.
Yeah. But it was just so mind blowing for me, and there's definitely my privilege was shining through because I was so blindsided to it. But just seeing what happened in the Capitol it was just like, well, you can't deny it now. Really, you can't. Yeah. And it's also this discussion about if you're against racism or you're anti-racist is two very different things. Yes. And that's also one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it on here, because it needs a platform. We need to talk about it. I know some people is like, oh, we have talked about it to death. It's like, well, we'll keep talking about it until it's not an issue.
Until we fix it. Exactly.
It's just one of the things,
and it's one of the things in regards to that, and especially with sober play and safety. I deal with the racism in my day-to-day life of, people are like, oh, you should get out. If you can't go interact with people, go do healthy, go walk through the park. I can't walk, walking through my neighborhood is different than you walking through your neighborhood because, right after my mom passed, I thought, I need to get out. I need to do something and clear my head. But then, Amari got killed, got hunted down by those people in his neighborhood. I live in a very white neighborhood. I think I'm still the only black person in my neighborhood. And
you don't want to
you
don't want to run into a feral Karen.
Exactly. I have to think about that when I walk down the street. Is if some asshole who has issue with me just because I happen to be melanated, is someone going to cause an interruption to my life? Not just my day, my life. The other, on the flip side, or I'm not even sure it's on the flip side, as a kinkster, what I run into a lot is some gross assumptions that are gross. There's a general understanding, or as a sober, and I've never been chemically dependent. That's just not my thing. I will drink occasionally, but even if I'm playing, I don't play intoxicated. But outside of alcohol, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't do anything. There is a general assumption when guys message me that I am equipped with a wide variety of drugs and that I'm HIV positive and that I will do whatever. And I find it's very interesting when people, because that's their assumption. It's not like they spoke to me. It's not like they've even known anyone to play with me. But what will then happen is the things they're willing to tell me about themselves and what they want to do, because they've made those assumptions as a black dom that's a top. The fact that there's a given assumption that I'm already positive, that I'm already have access to drugs, and that I'm going to engage in some really risky, I am a super freak, don't get me wrong, but I'm not stupid.
Now I just want you have to have that song running in the background when you do a session. That would be great.
Yes, exactly. And so, but I did have maybe, and as recently as 2 weeks ago, a guy want me to drug him, abduct him, keep him drugged over a weekend, and let me and all of my quote-unquote pause black top friends fuck him. And I said there were a couple of things. I said
let's just take that one apart.
Yeah. Let's go with that. And I don't know this person. It was literally one of those message, and I was like, oh well, that's okay. Where do we start? But it would be lying if I said that was the only message like that I got. And I get them all the time. Mm-hmm. And guys get really, they either don't believe me or try to convince me that no, it's okay to have risky sex with me because I'm okay with it. I said, but I'm not.
So out of curiosity, and this is not necessarily my personal opinion, but I'm curious, do you find when someone has that assumption, is that racist to you or just uneducated?
It's racist because they wouldn't approach you with the same question.
No, God, no. No.
Exactly. So there was a general assumption that I have.
When I went on holiday, I was really surprised how many people approached me about drugs, but I looked like someone who would take drugs. I was like, well, I did, so and they're not wrong. Exactly. But
you're not wrong,
I was just like, where the fuck were you 4 years ago when I was still doing it? But it was like, why are you assuming I'm doing this? And it was I wasn't necessarily upset by it, but I can understand why you would be upset by it, because it's that assumption. And do you know what? I'm not gonna lie and say I probably had some assumptions about you when I met you the first time. But to be honest, I come from a country where the majority of people...
There are not many of me.
There's not many of you. It's just what it is. And we've had conversations about this where I'm just like, can I say this? And you've said, no, you can't. And fine. And we move on from that. It's not any malice behind me, but I'm okay to ask
I'm totally
the question.
open to educating.
I'm open to...
Totally open to educating. And I think the thing that happens is... I'm all about intent. I want to know where it's coming from. If you want to know, I'm totally open to educate about what it means to live in my circumstance, or what it means for the play that we're about to engage in. Being a dom as long as I have, 90% of what we do is educate. I want to show you how to do it well, so that you can do it long. That's the way I view it. I don't expect people to come in. I'm not one of those people that, experienced players only. No, if I think even on my profile, it says, if you have an itch to scratch, let me know. I'm totally fine with beginners. What I try to think, because I want you to have a good experience, or at least know what a good experience is. And if you want to do it with someone else, so be it. But in those instances where people right out of the box, it's not even a hi, it's so this is what I want you to do with me because I've made these assumptions about you. And am having a partner who is German and not Black, it's very interesting as we live together, watching the same people approach without realizing that we're a couple, and how the same person will approach him. Completely different. But there was a general assumption that I have, 7 12-inch penis Black men in my back pocket that's going, and not only the assumption that I have them, that they're on speed dial, but that we're all interested in doing a gangbang train scene with some white twink. That is what makes it racist, is that is the assumption, and they'll approach me with, well, I just want to let you know that I'll let you do this, and I'll let you do this. And I'm like, well, that's nice. I'm not going to do that, but thank you. So I try to, it used to put me off, or it used to throw me when I would get asked, like, well, so what drugs are you on? I'm like, I'm not on any drugs. Well, you seem to be having a good time. I am having a good time. I can play. I'm into sensation. I like connecting with the guy. I like a variety of things that really someone could end up probably dead if I wasn't in my good mind. So I have to, it's just reality. So it's very scary for me to think, what are people doing that, surely this pitch has worked somewhere. So how many people out there have been exposed to who knows what from that particular assumption? So I guess for me, sober play is very important, for many reasons. But I wish people understood that you can engage, and I know you talk on this often, I can engage in something that I like, fully cognizant, fully sober, and have a full enjoyable experience without trying a substance, without being coked out of my brain. it's not a prerequisite to good sex.
No,
It just
I've
isn't.
definitely found that the connection is better. And also, yeah, it can be a little bit more hard, especially if you are a previous user trying to engage with super
Yes.
sex. It's difficult and it's scary and to be honest, a lot of people will have maybe one glass of wine and some before sex normally. So it's
Yeah,
it's kind of it's that whole Dutch courage thing, which is people shouldn't really rely on, because it just means that you're slightly numbed and it takes your inhibitions away, which is fine if you're an anxious person, but it's just, well, you never really have a proper connection. You're not engaged properly with this person, and
I miss foreplay. I think if people understood foreplay before we get naked, the stuff that happens when you're sitting there with your clothes on, that's where you take that edge off, and that is where the connection starts. I think sometimes it's like, oh, I've got a fuck date at 5. Okay, I'm busy cleaning and doing, and you're cleaning out or whatever, and then it's like you show up and, well, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Now, if you're someone I play with regularly, that's totally fine. But we've established that. But in the hookup scene, I could totally see how you're trying to engage in something that's a very intimate, very connected practice with some complete stranger. So I think I can see why some people would do something before. But then I also encourage people, in particular, I have one partner that I'll do breath play with. That's the only person I'll do breath play with. We've known each other for 10 years and know each other well enough to gauge each other. I have a lot of guys ask me, because I'm experienced in it, they'll, oh, well, let's come do this. And I'm like, you don't know me. And I don't suggest you going to do that with any person. If the first person you meet, if you talk to them online and they want to go do that this afternoon, yeah, that's a questionable thing. Now you layer in on that being chemically altered. That's a recipe for disaster.
I've definitely seen images of guys doing very extreme breath play, which involves submersion and water and
Exactly.
and I'm just like, have you tried this before? Just like, no, it was our first time. Just like, what would you have done if you passed out? You had a panic attack.
Yeah.
You're in a bathtub. If you pass out, you are dead weight. It's not just normal weight. It's
like
dead
that.
weight.
Yeah.
And that is not easy to get out of.
It's not easy to get out. Also, but from a top perspective, if I'm blurred, if I'm slightly hazy, I'm watching you, I can't even see my hand in front of my face. You literally might have that moment where you're like, I need out. And I missed it because I was looking at the spot on the wall.
Like,
and I
ooh,
think,
where is it?
he's not moving anymore. Oh, he's not moving.
Damn it.
I mean, damn. And
Get the shovel out in the garden.
Exactly. Just come around later with a black bag.
Disclaimer. Haha, joke. Haha.
Joke, yes. But you'd be surprised to what people ask me. But anyway, so I think knowing that is why I choose not to engage in being in a chemically altered state when I want to have fun with someone. Because if it's a new scene, especially if it's a new person to kink, now, I enjoy that. I think sometimes I feel there are doms that I talk to who don't enjoy the fact that the first time is very much like elementary school. Like you're walking through a process.
You kind of want a finished product instead of having to build it up.
Yeah, some people do, and I get that. And there are people for them.
I think depending on where I'm at, sometimes I get frustrated if it is someone who's really green and I just I don't have the patience, which is fine. Sometimes I do have the patience, and then that's fine as well.
Yeah.
It depends on the scene.
Exactly. So the things that I do on the extreme end of the spectrum, I have a partner of 10 years. I know him. He knows me. The same with my boy that lives here. 5. We have that level of experience and understanding. So there are things that I will do with them that I will probably never do with someone outside of my household.
Well,
Both from a calculated risk standpoint.
That's the beauty of polyamory, and it's a really, really difficult word to say, and also having
a polyamorous arrangement,
and open relationships and so on. But as long as there's like guidelines and consent, and this is what you do.
Communication is key. I think communication is the thing, and people always ask me, they say, Robert, do you have an open relationship? I say, by definition, probably yes. Ben is my focus. Ben will always be first. And if he says, Robert, I really don't like this person or this activity, that's a non-starter. We don't, because this is who I've chose to go through life with.
He's your main partner. Yes.
Exactly. He's my partner. Now, at the same time, we're both very kinky people, and we have similar kinks, but we also have very different kinks. And so, Ben doesn't like impact play. I like impact play.
Oh,
but
so do I, but mainly as a top.
And
but actually, exactly. Let me correct myself. Only as a top.
But so I know that I don't have to get that. And there'll be days he was like, Robert, you need to go find someone to beat on.
Hey, I'm like, you're being a little bit pushy today. Go and beat someone up.
It is. He's go find someone to beat on. But I love having a relationship with someone who both understands me. I understand him. And we recognize what we want out of life. So I feel very fortunate to have such a partner. But at the same time, I always tell people, you have to be... We can't do intimate play without intimacy.
Oh.
And so if and if I can't connect, if you're not honest with me, if you're not open with me, we can't do things that, my hand's up your ass. I really need to know health-wise how you're doing. It's one of those things. And it's really easy to get lost in your head, especially if you're chemically altered, to become paranoid about where you are in the scene or want to be in the scene or what the other person is thinking or how the experience is for them. I just think that it creates a lot of unnecessary anxiety.
Absolutely.
And so I just want people to realize that, yes, I am not, I don't have all of this dirty laundry list of things that I'm just going to do because, I'm black and a top. But I really want people to understand that there's so many levels and take things where you are at that moment. You really might need a really experienced person for a really intense scene today. And if you just kind of want to lay on the bed and have him edge you while you're gagged and tied up watching, Designing Women, do that. It's okay. But I think sometimes people get really...
Last time I had my sub here, I just went, we're not gonna have any heavy play. It's literally ordering a Chinese, watching a movie, and lots of tactile. Yeah. Because that was what I needed. And as a good sub he was very happy with that. So that was perfectly fine. But that means it is okay to have those type of sessions. It doesn't always have to be the full kit. It doesn't always have to be this checklist you have to go through. I despise checklists. It just makes it like, oh, you ordered, which number did you order tonight, sir?
People do that to me a lot where as someone who flags orange, I remind them, and I said, it's still what I want to do. It's never I said, I will do it. I am capable of anything, not all the things. But also it depends on who I'm with. What I'm willing to get into is paramount and dependent on the person that I'm doing it with. And I practice,
and absolutely don't assume by how someone looks what they might be into. I definitely also get assumptions, of course not in the same degree as you, but I do get assumptions of what I might be into or what my medical status is.
But you usually are.
Well, yeah, but that's beside the point.
Beside the point.
Well,
yes.
I also get people who are really, really surprised that I'm still negative. To be honest, I am also surprised myself. How I managed to do that, I have no idea. Especially with my using days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm aware of the time. I think it's a really,
Yes.
really good place to end. And it's been really
Yeah,
lovely to
I've
have you
enjoyed
on, and it's just some really interesting conversation with like Black Lives Matter, what's going on in your country at the moment.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and we could probably keep talking for a long time about that.
We'll do that offline. We'll do
Absolutely,
that offline.
absolutely.
But yeah, I hope it was insightful, because I do think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in our own tunnel and realize and forget that it's a very different reality for even within the Kinkster
absolutely scene. And if anyone is watching this and they've gotten something from it, or they have questions for Robert, where can they contact you, Robert?
If you want, I mean, honestly, shoot me an email. I'm on Facebook, but I'm also Instagram, Fine Chocolate Man. Shoot me a message.
Fine Chocolate Man.
It's very
Fine
Chocolate Man. If you are on the sites, can I list my recon here?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I'm Powerful Threat on Week Recon. Very simple. And again, I'm open to talk to people. It doesn't, if you have questions, comments, sure.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Amazing. Thank you for coming on. And
thank you.
So this is the first episode of this year. I'm doing 8 episodes again this year. So in the next couple of weeks, there will be more episodes. I am spacing them out with 2 weeks in between instead this season, just to fill it out a little bit longer, a little bit more entertaining, but also it takes a little bit longer to edit them in this format. So hopefully you'll be understanding that I can't entertain you every week. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye!